The deep hum of fusion reactors filled the corridors of Deep Station Omega, a massive orbital platform floating in the void between Earth and the outer colonies. Marcus Blackwood wiped sweat from his weathered face as he descended into Sector 7, his tool belt jangling with each step down the metal grating. At 42, he had spent the last 15 years maintaining the station's complex systems, preferring the solitude of machinery to the company of most people. The sound had been driving him crazy for 3 days now, a rhythmic tapping, like Morse code, echoing through the ventilation shafts in the lower levels. His supervisor had dismissed it as settling metal or faulty pressure valves, but Marcus knew every sound the station made. This was different. This was deliberate. Following the sound deeper into the maintenance levels, Marcus found himself in a section rarely visited by anyone. The emergency lighting cast eerie shadows on the walls, and the air recyclers here ran at minimum capacity, making the atmosphere thick and stale. He paused at Junction 7 Alpha, pressing his ear to the wall. There it was again, clearer now. Tap dash tap dash tap, pause, tap tap pause, tap dash tap dash tap. His scanner detected an anomaly behind the wall. According to his blueprints, there should be solid bulkhead here, but the readings suggested an empty space. Marcus ran his hands along the metal panels until he found a nearly invisible seam. Years of working with station systems had given him an intuitive understanding of hidden access points and emergency compartments. The panel slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a cramped chamber that definitely wasn't on any official station schematic. Marcus shined his flashlight into the darkness, expecting to find damaged equipment or maybe evidence of smuggling. Instead, he found himself staring into the most beautiful eyes he had ever seen. The woman pressed against the far wall was unlike anyone he had ever encountered. Her skin held a subtle luminescent blue quality that seemed to pulse with her heartbeat, and her hair flowed like liquid silver down her shoulders. She wore form-fitting garments that appeared to be made from some advanced material, now torn and stained with what looked like blood. Her large, expressive eyes held a mixture of fear and desperate hope. "Please," she whispered, her voice carrying a melodic quality that made Marcus's chest tighten. "Please don't hurt me." Marcus lowered his flashlight, raising his free hand in a gesture of peace. "Hey, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. Are you injured?" She studied his face carefully, as if trying to determine whether he could be trusted. Slowly, she shifted position, and Marcus could see a deep gash across her left shoulder. The wound partially sealed, but still bleeding. Her breathing was labored, and her luminescent skin had taken on a pale quality that suggested significant blood loss. "You're human," she said, wonder creeping into her voice. "I had hoped. They said humans might be different." "Different from what?" Marcus asked, stepping carefully into the chamber. "Who are you? How did you get here?" "My name is Zara Moonwhisper," she replied, wincing as she tried to straighten up. "I came here fleeing the Crimson Dominion. It destroyed my world, slaughtered my people. I barely escaped in a damaged pod." Marcus had heard whispers about the Crimson Dominion, a militaristic empire expanding aggressively through the Outer Rim territories. Earth's intelligence services monitored them, but the conflict seemed distant and abstract. Looking at Zara's wounds and the terror in her eyes, the threat suddenly became very real. "How long have you been hiding here?" he asked, kneeling beside her to examine her injuries. "For days," Zara replied. "Maybe 5. Time feels different when you're hiding in the dark, waiting to die." Her shoulder wound was worse than he had initially thought. The gash went deep, and without proper medical attention, infection was inevitable. Marcus had basic first aid training, but this required more than bandages and antiseptic. "We need to get you medical help," he said. "The station has a full medical bay." Zara's eyes widened with panic. "No, please. If your authorities discover me, they'll turn me over to the Dominion. They have agents everywhere, even on neutral stations like this." Marcus felt a surge of protectiveness that surprised him. This woman had clearly endured unimaginable trauma, and despite being alien, she seemed more genuine and vulnerable than most humans he knew. Her courage in fleeing across space, wounded and alone, struck something deep within him. "Listen to me," he said firmly. "I'm not going to let anyone hurt you, but you'll die if we don't treat these wounds properly." Zara reached out tentatively, her fingers touching his hand. Her skin was warm and incredibly soft, with that subtle luminescence that seemed to respond to her emotions. Why would you help a stranger, an alien stranger? Marcus looked into her eyes and saw something he recognized: loneliness, fear, the desperate need for connection that he had been carrying around for years without fully acknowledging it, because it's the right thing to do. Marcus had never been much of a cook, but he managed to prepare something resembling a meal from emergency rations and fresh supplies. He had quietly requisitioned from the cafeteria. Zara sat propped against the wall of the unused storage bay, where he had relocated her, watching him with curious eyes as he heated the food with a portable thermal unit. "On my world, we grew our food in living gardens," she said softly, accepting the warm container he offered. "Crystalline trees that bore fruit containing all the nutrients we needed. The taste changed based on your emotional state." "That sounds incredible," Marcus replied. Settling beside her on the makeshift bed he had constructed from emergency blankets and padding. "What was your world like before the Dominion came?" Zara's expression grew wistful as she carefully tasted the human food. Talos Prime was a water world, with floating cities connected by bridges of living coral. We were artists, philosophers, healers. We believed that beauty and harmony were the highest forms of achievement. Her voice hardened. The Dominion called us weak because we had no weapons, no armies. We were wrong about our strength, but right about our vulnerability. Marcus had spent the past 2 days learning about Zara's culture while tending to her wounds. Her people, the Talari, possessed natural empathic abilities that allowed them to sense emotions and intentions. It explained why she seemed to understand his feelings almost before he did, and why her presence had such a profound effect on his usually guarded heart. "The medical supplies are helping," he observed, checking the advanced healing patches he had managed to obtain from the station's emergency stockpiles. "Your shoulder looks much better." Zara smiled, and Marcus felt his pulse quicken. When she smiled, her entire face seemed to glow with an inner light that was impossibly beautiful. "Your kindness is healing more than just my wounds, Marcus Blackwood." The way she said his name, with that musical accent that made even simple words sound like poetry, sent warmth spreading through his chest. Over the past few days, he had found himself looking forward to their conversations with an intensity that bordered on addiction. She was brilliant, passionate, and possessed a perspective on life that challenged everything he thought he knew about existence. "There's something else," Zara said, her expression growing serious.
Something I haven't
"Told you about why the Dominion is so desperate to find me." Marcus set down his food, giving her his full attention. Zara reached into a hidden compartment in her damaged clothing, withdrawing a small crystalline device that pulsed with the same luminescence as her skin. Before Talos Prime fell, our greatest scientists managed to complete a project they had been working on for decades. It contains the complete specifications for a weapon that could neutralize the Dominion's quantum shielding technology. Marcus stared at the device, understanding the implications immediately. "You're carrying military intelligence that could change the balance of power in this entire sector."
Oh.
"More than that," Zara said. "This technology could give smaller civilizations a way to defend themselves against Dominion aggression. It could save millions of lives across hundreds of worlds." The weight of responsibility settled heavily on Marcus's shoulders. He was a maintenance worker, not a spy or soldier. His biggest concerns were usually faulty air recyclers and overdue equipment inspections. Now he was harboring a refugee carrying intelligence that could reshape galactic politics. "Why trust me with this?" he asked. "You barely know me." Zara moved closer, her hand finding his. Because in the past 3 days, you've shown me more genuine compassion than most people show in a lifetime. Because when you found me broken and bleeding, your first instinct was to help, not to calculate what you might gain. Her fingers intertwined with his, and Marcus felt something electric pass between them. It wasn't just physical attraction, though he couldn't deny the powerful pull he felt toward her. It was deeper than that, a connection that seemed to bypass all the usual barriers and defenses he kept around his heart. "Marcus," she whispered, moving even closer, "I know this is complicated. I know I'm asking you to risk everything for someone." "You barely know. You're not asking me to do anything," Marcus replied, his voice rougher than he intended. "I'm choosing to help because I can't imagine doing anything else." Zara's eyes searched his face, and he knew she was reading his emotions with her empathic abilities. Whatever she saw there seemed to reassure her, because she leaned forward until their faces were mere inches apart. "Your feelings," she said. Softly, "they're so strong, so pure. On my world, we could sense when someone was being deceptive or self-serving. With you, there's no deception, no hidden agenda, just genuine caring." Marcus felt his breath catch as her hand touched his cheek. Her skin was warm and impossibly soft, with that subtle luminescence that seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. "Zara, She pressed her lips to his, cutting off his words. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, as if she were afraid he might pull away. When he responded, drawing her closer, she melted against him with a soft sound that sent heat racing through his veins. When they finally parted, both breathing heavily, Zara rested her forehead against his. "I never expected to feel this," she whispered. "After losing everything, after so much pain and fear, I thought my heart was too broken to love again." "Maybe we're both healing," Marcus replied, his arms tightening around her. "Maybe we found each other exactly when we both needed it most." The Crimson Dominion cruiser Shadow's Edge docked at Deep Station Omega 3 days later, its sleek black hull gleaming under the station's external lights. Marcus watched the docking procedures from his workstation in the maintenance control room, a cold knot of dread forming in his stomach. Official records listed it as a diplomatic vessel conducting routine inspections, but he knew better. Agent Keth Darkscar disembarked with a small retinue of Dominion personnel, his tall frame moving with predatory grace through the station's corridors. Unlike many of his species, the Vorthok Kith had undergone extensive cybernetic enhancement. Metallic plates adorned his skull, and his eyes had been replaced with scanning devices that could detect subtle changes in temperature, heart rate, and electromagnetic signatures. "Attention all station personnel," came the announcement over the COM system. "We are conducting a routine security inspection in cooperation with Dominion authorities. Please ensure all identification and travel documents are readily available." Marcus felt his hands trembling slightly as he made his way through the service corridors toward Zara's hiding place. Her wounds had healed remarkably well over the past week, and their relationship had deepened into something he had never experienced before. Every stolen moment together felt precious and dangerous, their growing intimacy a bright flame in the darkness that surrounded them. He found Zara pacing, dumb. The small storage room like a caged animal, her luminescent skin pulsing with agitation. "He's here," she said without preamble. "Can feel his presence like ice in my veins." "Ketch Darkscar, the butcher of Talos Prime, the agent who destroyed your world?" Marcus asked, setting down the supplies he had brought. Zara nodded, her beautiful features twisted with a mixture of fear and hatred. "He was there when they executed my mate, when they burned our floating cities. He takes pleasure in suffering, feeds on the terror of his victims." Marcus pulled her into his arms, feeling her trembling against him. Over the past week, she had shared more details about her escape from Talos Prime, the horrors she had witnessed, the friends and family she had lost. Each story had only deepened his admiration for her courage and his determination to protect her. "We need to move you somewhere else," he said. "This section might be too exposed." "Where can we go that he won't eventually find?" Zara asked, pulling back to look into his eyes. "His scanning equipment can detect trace biological signatures. If he gets close enough, he'll know I was here." Marcus thought quickly, his mind racing through the station's layout and systems. The thermal exchange chambers in Section 12. They're flooded with heat signatures from the reactor cooling systems. It might mask your presence long enough for us to figure out our next move. They gathered her few possessions and made their way through the maintenance tunnels, avoiding the main corridors where Dominion personnel were conducting their inspections. Marcus had disabled several security cameras along their route, using his maintenance access to create blind spots in the surveillance network. The thermal exchange chambers were exactly as uncomfortable as he had anticipated, filled with the constant roar of cooling systems and oppressively hot. But the heat would indeed mask Zara's unique biological signature, buying them precious time.
Akis,
Zara said, catching his hand as he prepared to leave her with fresh supplies. If something happens to me, promise you'll get the intelligence data to your Earth command. Promise me those deaths won't be meaningless. Nothing's going to happen to you, Marcus replied fiercely. I'm gonna let them take you. Zara pulled him close, her lips finding his in a kiss that was desperate and passionate. I love you, she whispered against his mouth. I know it's impossible. I know we've only known each other for a week. But what I feel for you is stronger than anything I've ever experienced. I love you too, Marcus replied, the words feeling both foreign and absolutely right on his tongue. And that's why I'm not going to lose you. Their lovemaking that night was intense and urgent, driven by the knowledge that each moment together might be their last. In the sweltering heat of the thermal chamber, they found solace in each other's bodies, their passion a defiant act against the darkness that hunted them. Afterward, as Zara slept curled against his chest, Marcus stared at the ceiling and made plans. He couldn't keep running forever, couldn't keep her hidden indefinitely. Catch Darkscar was methodical and patient, and eventually he would narrow down the search area. Marcus needed to find a way to get Zara off the station. But more than that, he needed to ensure the intelligence she carried reached people who could use it. The next morning brought troubling news. Dominion personnel had begun conducting detailed scans of the maintenance areas, claiming they were looking for structural weaknesses that might compromise station security. Marcus knew it was only a matter of time before they worked their way down to the thermal chambers. I have an idea, he told Zara as he brought her breakfast. It's dangerous, but it might be our only chance. Zara looked at him expectantly, her trust in him absolute despite the impossible circumstances they faced. There's a supply ship leaving for Earth in 2 days, Marcus explained. The X-Venture. I know the chief engineer from my training days. If I can get you aboard that ship, you could deliver the intelligence directly to Earth Command. What about you? Zara asked, her eyes filling with concern. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, weighing his words carefully. I'll stay here and try to throw them off your trail. Make them think you're still on the station while you escape, Zara said firmly. I won't leave you behind. We face this together, or not at all. Marcus felt his heart swell with love for this incredible woman who had already lost everything but was still willing to risk her only chance at safety for him. Zara, you have to think about the bigger picture. Millions of lives depend on that intelligence reaching Earth. And my life depends on you, she replied, taking his hands in hers. I've already lost one mate to the Dominion. I won't survive losing another. The alarm klaxons began wailing at 0347 hours, their harsh sound echoing through every corridor of Deep Station Omega. Marcus bolted upright from where he had been dozing beside Zara in the thermal chamber, instantly alert and knowing that their worst fears had been realized. Attention all personnel, came Keth Darkscar's voice over the communication system, cold and mechanical. We have detected an unauthorized life form aboard this station. All sections are to be sealed immediately. Anyone harboring fugitive aliens will be considered enemies of the Dominion. Zara's luminescent skin had gone pale, pulsing with fear. He's found us, she whispered. Or at least found evidence of my presence. Marcus was already moving, gathering their emergency supplies while his mind raced through possible escape routes. The thermal chamber had bought them time, but Keth's advanced scanning equipment had apparently detected some trace of Zara's unique biology, despite their precautions. The ventilation shafts, Marcus said. We can use the main air circulation system to move between sections without being detected by his ground teams. They crawled through the narrow maintenance ducts, the metal surfaces slick with condensation and uncomfortable against their bodies. Zara moved with surprising grace. Despite the confined space, her alien physiology apparently well-suited to tight environments. Marcus led the way, using his intimate knowledge of the station's infrastructure to navigate the maze of passages behind them. They could hear the sound of Dominion troops forcing their way into the thermal chamber. Keth's voice crackled through. The comm system again, closer now, and filled with predatory satisfaction. The trail is fresh, he announced. They cannot have gone far. Seal all docking bays and transportation areas. Marcus felt his heart sink. Their original plan of reaching the supply ship was no longer viable. They needed a new strategy, and they needed it quickly. As they crawled through the ventilation system, Zara suddenly grabbed his ankle. "Wait," she whispered urgently. "There's something else about the intelligence I'm carrying. Something I haven't told you." Marcus paused, twisting around to face her in the cramped space. "What is it?" Zara's eyes were bright with unshed tears, but also with a fierce determination. "The weapon technology isn't just defensive, it's part of something larger. My people discovered the location of the Dominion's primary command base, their central coordination hub for the entire expansion campaign." The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. You're not just carrying defensive technology, you're carrying the key to ending the Dominion's entire military campaign. "Yes," Zara replied. "If this information reaches Earth Command, they could coordinate with other species, launch a preemptive strike that would cripple the Dominion's ability to continue their conquests." Marcus understood now why Keth Darkscar had come personally, why the Dominion was so desperate to recover her. Zara wasn't just a refugee with useful intelligence. She was potentially the catalyst for the Dominion's downfall. "That's why I can't let them take me alive," Zara continued, her voice steady despite the tears. "They would torture the information out of me, use it to strengthen their defenses instead of exposing their weaknesses." "That's not going to happen," Marcus said firmly. "We're going to get you out of here." They continued through the ventilation system until they reached a junction. Near the station's communication array, Marcus had an idea forming. Desperate and dangerous, but possibly their only chance. "Can you transmit the intelligence data?" he asked. "Broadcast it on an open channel that Earth Command would monitor." Zara considered the possibility. The amount of data is enormous, and it's encrypted with Talari quantum codes. It would take several minutes to transmit completely, and they would trace the signal immediately. "How long?" Marcus pressed. "At least 10 minutes for a complete transmission." Zara replied. "Maybe 12? Marcus nodded grimly. "Then we make our stand here. I'll hold them off while you transmit the data." "Marcus, no," Zara protested. "Keith Darkscar is a trained killer with cybernetic enhancements. You're a maintenance worker with basic combat training." "I know this station better than anyone," Marcus replied. "I know every system, every weakness, every way to turn the infrastructure against intruders. And more than that, I know what we're fighting for." Zara stared at him for a long moment, her empathic abilities reading the absolute certainty in his emotions. Slowly she nodded. "Ah, if we're doing this, we do it together. I won't hide while you face them alone." They made their way to the communication center, Marcus using his maintenance codes to override the security locks. The room was filled with sophisticated transmission equipment that connected the station to the broader galactic network. Immediately began interfacing with the systems, her Talari technology adapting quickly to human communication protocols. "Beginning data upload," she announced. "Estimated transmission time, 11 minutes, 43 seconds. Marcus positioned himself at the room's entrance, armed with a maintenance plasma cutter that could serve as an improvised weapon. Through the security monitors, he could see Dominion troops systematically searching the station, Keth Darkscar, directing their movements with cold efficiency. "Marcus," Zara said softly as the data continued uploading, "whatever happens next, I want you to know that meeting you was the most beautiful thing in my life since the fall of Talos Prime. You gave me hope when I thought hope was dead." "You gave me purpose," Marcus replied, not taking his eyes off the monitors. "For 15 years, I just existed on this station. Then I found you, and suddenly I had a reason to fight, a reason to be something more than just a maintenance worker." The sound of approaching footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. Kate Darkscar's enhanced voice carried clearly through the station's communication system. "I know you can hear me, Talari refugee," he called out. "Surrender now, and you're human. Accomplice will die quickly. Continue to resist, and I will make his suffering legendary." Zara's hands trembled slightly as she worked, but her voice remained steady. "Transmission 60% complete. 5 more minutes." Marcus gripped the plasma cutter tighter, his heart pounding, but his resolve unshakable. They had come too far to fail now, whatever the cost. That intelligence data had to reach Earth's command. The first Dominion soldier appeared at the end of the corridor, and Marcus knew their final battle was about to begin. The plasma cutter's beams sliced through the first Dominion soldier's armor, sending him crashing to the floor in a shower of sparks. Marcus dove behind a control console as return fire filled the air, the acrid smell of burned metal and ozone, flooding the communication center. "Transmission 75% complete," Zara called out, her fingers flying over the alien interface she had created. 3 minutes, Marcus? Just give me 3 more minutes." More soldiers poured into the corridor, but Marcus had spent 15 years learning every system on this station. He triggered an emergency bulkhead closure, temporarily sealing off their position while rerouting power through the maintenance grid. Sparks cascaded from overloaded circuits, creating chaos and confusion among the attacking forces. Calf Darkscar's cybernetic enhanced voice cut through the noise like a blade. "Impressive, human. But your primitive tricks will not save you." Bulkhead began to glow red-hot as the Dominion forces applied military-grade cutting tools. Marcus knew they had perhaps 2 minutes before the barrier was breached. He looked back at Zara, her luminescent skin pulsing with concentration as she fought to complete the data transmission. 85%, she announced. "Almost there." Marcus made a desperate decision. Using his maintenance override codes, he began systematically overloading the station's power grid in this section. If he could create enough electromagnetic interference, it might disrupt Keth's scanning equipment while simultaneously powering the transmission. Array at maximum capacity. The lights flickered and died, replaced by the hellish red glow of emergency illumination. The bulkhead finally gave way, and Keth Darkscar stepped through the breach like a nightmare given form. His cybernetic enhancements gleamed in the dim light, and his artificial eyes focused on Marcus with predatory intensity. "Your heroics end here," Keth declared, raising a weapon that hummed with lethal energy. "Step away from the communication array." 95%, Zara whispered, her voice tight with strain. 30 more seconds. Marcus positioned himself between Keth and Zara, the plasma cutter steady in his hands despite the fear coursing through his veins. "You're too late, Darkscar. The data's already transmitting." Keth's expression didn't change, but Marcus could see calculation in those artificial eyes. "Then you have doomed yourself for nothing. We will track the transmission, eliminate the recipients before they can act on the intelligence." "Will you?" Marcus asked, allowing himself a slight smile. "Because I've been doing more than just protecting the transmission. I've been broadcasting it on 17 different frequencies, routing it through every communication relay in this sector. By now, it's reached not just Earth's command, but also the Andrelian Confederacy, the Free Worlds Alliance, and every other civilization that has reason to fear the Dominion." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Keth Darkscar's features. Behind Marcus, Zara's voice rang out with triumph and exhaustion. "Transmission complete. The intelligence package has been successfully delivered to all intended recipients." Artificial eyes blazed with fury. "Then you will both die knowing that your sacrifice was meaningless. The Dominion will adapt, overcome whatever pathetic resistance your allies can mount." "No," said a new voice from the corridor entrance. "They won't." Marcus turned to see Captain Elena Vasquez of the X-Venture, flanked by a full squad of Earth Marines in combat armor. Their weapons were trained on Keth and his remaining soldiers, who suddenly found themselves outnumbered and outgunned. "How?" Keth demanded, his cybernetic enhancements worry as he processed this unexpected development. "The intelligence your refugee friend transmitted included real-time coordinates for every Dominion fleet position in this sector. Captain Vasquez explained calmly. "We've been coordinating with Allied forces for the past 20 minutes. Ships are already surrounded." Marcus felt Zara's hand slip into his as the full magnitude of their success began to sink in. Not only had they successfully transmitted the intelligence, but they had apparently triggered a coordinated military response that had caught the Dominion forces completely off guard. Keth Darkscar's weapon trembled with rage, but he was smart, enough to recognize a hopeless situation. Slowly, he lowered his weapon and activated a communication device built into his cybernetic implants. "Shadow's Edge. This is Darkscar. Initiate emergency withdrawal. Mission compromised." "Negative, Agent Darkscar," came the reply. "Withdrawal is not possible. We are surrounded by Allied forces demanding our immediate surrender." The defeat in Keth's artificial eyes was almost satisfying as he realized that his prey had not only escaped, but had engineered the downfall of his entire mission. Marcus squeezed Zara's hand, hardly daring to believe that their ordeal might actually be over. Captain Vasquez approached them with a mixture of respect and curiosity. "Is Moonwhisper, I presume, and Mr. Blackwood, Earth Command has asked me to extend their gratitude for your extraordinary service to Galactic security. What happens now?" Zara asked, her voice still weak from the strain of the transmission. "Dad," Captain Vasquez replied with a smile. "You help us coordinate the largest multi-species military operation in galactic history. Provided has given us the opportunity to end the Dominion's expansion once and for all." 6 months later, Marcus and Zara stood on the observation deck of New Talos Station, watching as the first wave of Talari refugees returned to reclaim their homeworld. The combined Allied fleet had successfully neutralized the Dominion's central command structure, fragmenting their military capabilities and liberating dozens of conquered worlds. Zara's hand rested over her slightly curved belly. Their child grew with a mixture of human determination and Talari wisdom. Their love had not only survived the crucible of war, but had become the foundation for a new kind of future. "Or do you ever regret it?" Zara asked, her luminescent skin glowing. "With contentment? Giving up your quiet life as a maintenance worker?" Marcus pulled her closer, marveling at how perfectly she fit in his arms. "Never. That life was just existing. This life with you, fighting for something bigger than ourselves, this is living." Below them, the first Talari children in years played. In the rebuilt floating gardens, their laughter carrying on the artificial breeze. Somewhere in the distance, human engineers worked alongside alien architects, building a future where love could transcend species, where compassion could triumph over conquest. Marcus had investigated a mysterious noise and found something one was prepared for. Not just an alien refugee, but a partner, a cause, and a love that would reshape the galaxy itself.